You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. In a time and place where salt and light are taken for granted, it might be hard to understand what Jesus really means. How dark a night really is, we only really get to understand during a power outage. And I honestly can't think of a circumstance where we don't have salt. To understand what Jesus wants his listeners to understand, we have to dive a little bit into the history of salt. In his book, Salt, A World History, there are books about this, Mark Kurlansky writes, from the beginning of civilization until about 100 years ago, salt was one of the most sought-after commodities in human history. In ancient times, salt was believed to ward off evil spirits in Greek and Roman culture, but also in Germanic traditions. There are several examples in the Bible where the use of salt is mentioned in sealing a covenant. The qualities of salt as a conservative symbolized the durability of the union. Salt was also used in medicine to disinfect wounds, to check bleeding, to stimulate thirst, and to treat skin diseases. Roman soldiers were sometimes paid in salt, which created the English word salary, right? Almost. Brides and grooms rubbed salt on their bodies, not for conservation purposes, but to enhance fertility. In German, we still use the saying, if the food is oversalted, the cook is in love. Now you know why. And of course, in all the centuries before refrigeration, salt was essential for food preservation. And nowadays, we still use salt for lots of purposes. I have salt in my kitchen to cook and in my bathroom to rinse my sinus, and I use it for art projects, and it's useful against some stains of food and drink. If we don't have enough salt in our body, we die, and if we have too much, we die too. Let's get back to the gospel text. Last week, we started on this world-famous text, the Sermon on the Mount, with the so-called Beatitudes, right? Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are the meek. You know the text. What Jesus doesn't say is, you may be blessed if you see your situation from this angle, or if you might experience your suffering or your lack of something as a blessing in disguise. Jesus says, blessed are you. And he's not talking to his disciples or a chosen and singled out group of people. He's talking to a crowd that has been following him from Galilee, from the Decapolis, Jerusalem, Judea, and from regions beyond the Jordan. People of all ages, of all family situations, all different occupations, different financial and social backgrounds, likely even different religions. And Jesus says, blessed are you. And in the same way, he addresses his audience directly using the second person here. You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. God has made you and blessed you for a particular role in creation's redemption. What role? First, even in small quantities, salt and light make a big difference to a much larger whole. A pinch of salt brings a dish's flavor alive. Indeed, salt is one of the only spices that can enhance and bring out other flavors in a dish. And even a little bit of light, say a single candle, can light up a room. It can even light up a landscape. A candle is visible from more than a mile. To be precise, 1.6 miles is what you can see a candle from in the dark. Second, both salt and light have simple elemental purposes. As a seasoning, salt is, we just heard it from the confirmants, salty. No one would use salt that lost its taste. Salt is for saltiness. Its identity and its purpose are virtually one and the same. Likewise, light is for shining. Just as no one would use unsalty salt, no one would light a lamp and then hide it. And in the same way, our identity and purpose, who we are and what we are meant to do, are virtually one and the same. Like salt and light, God made you as a small thing that can make a big difference for a larger whole. God made you to spice up things, not to overpower the dish, but to enliven it, enhance and highlight other flavors. And likewise, God made you to shine, as only you can. A flame that can light up an entire room or help guide a lost traveler home. So Jesus isn't giving his listeners a new role to play here. Rather, he's naming who we already are. We don't have to work to become salt and light. God made us this way, blessing us with gifts that can bless the world. But we do have to claim them and embrace them and live our gifts out. We do have to actually be salty and luminous, fulfilling and embodying what our gifts make possible. We do have to be who we are. Now, over the next 2 weeks, our gospel reading will go through the Sermon on the Mount, and it has a lot of more passages on instruction on how to live your life. Before that, Jesus gives a note in today's reading on how to understand what he is going to say. He says that all his forthcoming instructions are built on blessing. He doesn't say, you are a wayward and sinful generation, so leave behind your transgressions and transform yourselves into salt and light. That's John the Baptist. He says, you are salt and light. God made you to bless the world. You may feel small and insignificant, but like a pinch of salt or a spark of light, you make a tremendous difference. Go boldly then and be who you are, and don't hide your light. So in short, the essence of Jesus' sermon is not do these good works in order to be blessed. Instead, it's the reverse. You are blessed and made to be a blessing, so go and live out your destiny by doing these good works. In this way, the sermon is designed to make clear that good works, including the actions Jesus will now recommend in the rest of the sermon and beyond, they are not strategies for earning or acquiring blessing. On the contrary, they are tangible ways to respond to our blessedness in gratitude and confidence, and so to bless the world in joy and love. But before turning to these specific instructions, Jesus adds one more introductory note. He says, some of the teachings to come may at first sound rather different than what you have heard in the law. But don't worry, if you follow my instructions, you'll more fully embody the essential features of what Moses taught, filling out and exemplifying the law's meaning, spirit and substance. I'm not about abolishing or changing the law. I'm about getting to the heart of the law, giving it inner life so you can fully live it out. So like salt, we don't exist to preserve ourselves, but to enliven, enhance, deepen, and preserve the world we live in. And to tie it back to last week's readings, we should do it by walking humbly, because only a pinch of salt is needed to make a difference. Salt is not meant to dominate. So as you go into your week, think about how you as salt and light can interact with the world around you. Don't hide your light. Don't just stick around in your salt jar. Shine your light and pour yourself out, because like salt and light, that is when and how we fulfill our purpose. When we give ourselves to the world around us. When we share the blessing that we have received. Amen.